Hello everybody, and welcome to another video. I want to make an update now on a new conversation and debate within the Finnish parliament. And as you can probably already imagine by the very first thing that you see here, it is talking about the Muslim veil, specifically the burqa and the niqab. Now, I want to make this evidently clear. This is not meant to be pro-Islam, pro-Christianity, pro-anything really. This is merely to show the hypocrisy of parties and people within the Finnish parliament who talk about these topics and then don't know anything about, for example, burqa, niqab, or even hijab. And I have personally read Quran. I know how these things work to some extent. I can be corrected and I should be corrected on these issues. But I want to go line by line what these people say in our parliament and show how it is wrong. So let's be clear here. So coalition wants to say it shouldn't be in schools. Like that's their reasoning so far, is that they don't want it in schools. But here's the thing: is that even talking about this is a fabricated problem. In Finland, there has never been any mass legal, social, or criminal issue caused by the niqabs or burqas. These garments are worn by a tiny fraction of Muslim women, and those who do not wear are generally law-abiding and peaceful. To claim that they weaken safety or hinder interaction is an empty accusation with no statistical proof. Now here, now you can read this in its completion, but at the very end here, it says this. It means freedom of faith, basically. Now, problem here is that this is a pure doublespeak. Because true freedom means you don't ban religious clothing because you don't personally find it unusual. The moment you ban religious symbol in public life, you stop believing in freedom, and you started enforcing cultural conformity. For a so-called liberal party that wants to give women freedom, you're taking the freedom away. You're doing this. Problem here also is that within their statement, they also talked about here. This statement here. So this is a bad translation, but it talks about the safety argument. And this is the safety argument. So they lump niqabs and burqa along with balaclavas, and what's translated here as commando people. And that's what burps here mean. But regardless, as if women are going to school in religious clothing as the same as criminals covering their faces to commit crimes. Right? This is completely silly. You are lumping a niqab and burqa worn by the minority of women, and I don't think even children wear them in Finland. I don't think there's any evidence for that. The same as a balaclava. This is, as long as I'm concerned, a deliberate framing to plant in fear of public mind. Absolutely. That's what, as long as I'm concerned, that's what this is. I would like to remind everybody here that in Islam, niqab is not compulsorily for all Muslim women, but for those who choose it. It is an act of worship and modesty. Preventing them from doing it is preventing them from practicing their own deen in a way that they sincerely believe that pleases God, Allah. And the Quran states in 2:56.
لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي فمن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها والله سميع عليم.
When you start normalizing these laws, start banning a minority group's clothing, you open the door to banning their own rights. So Jani Mäkelä here says, in particular, the protection of minors from such non-foreigner of women from such non-foreseen culture is of paramount importance. So when Jani Mäkelä says this, that niqab, burqa, and children's hijabs should be banned, he's not talking about safety. He's openly talking about wiping out visible Muslim identity from schools and public life. This is not about protecting anyone. It's about deciding which religious activities are acceptable in Finland and which are not. This is discrimination, plain and simple, and I would even go so far to call it racist. Now, He also claims that this is about protecting from a form of oppression that does not belong to Western culture. This is ironic because Western history is full of its own systems of female oppression, from centuries without voting rights, while Muslim nations did have them, banning women from education to modern wage inequality. The idea that Muslim women need saving from who? From themselves, by stripping away their own chosen modesty. They chose this themselves. Who are you to say they shouldn't do this? And again, Islamically, hijab and niqab are acts of devotion, and coercion in either direction, forcing to remove, is wrong. Women are fully capable of making their own choices, and it is arrogant to claim otherwise. Kurvinen here talks about sounds more moderate with a partial ban, and it needs more investigation. But the problem is that this is first partial, then it becomes full. So this is trying to find a middle way, but there shouldn't even be a middle way. There shouldn't be. And again, I need to push this forward. Neither niqab, burqa, nor children wearing hijab has created any proven problem in Finland. There is no wave of crimes, no systematic obstruction in schools, and no national crisis. This is a political invention designed to stir fear and win easy points with voters who have never even met a niqabi woman. Not once. Now, on to the Christian Democrats, because I find this to be the funniest part. Okay. So here we have the Christian Democrats talking about Peter Östman, repeating the usual claim that niqabs and burqas are dangerous because they hide the face. But I just want to maybe bring a new point to this. Finland has no documented wave of crimes committed to niqab-wearing women. The few scenarios where identification is necessary, e.g. airports, ID checks, certain security jobs, are already handled. And it's the absolute minority of niqabi or hijabi women who have to deal with this in this manner. So Muslim women have shown time and time again in our history that they're willing to remove the niqab briefly and privately for official purposes. They do this, and this is what is being done, for example, in airports. So this is really silly. It is really silly. Now, he also says here that, yeah, here we go. Yeah, it's not a part of open Finnish society. Yeah. He says that face covering doesn't belong in Finnish society. But if openness means that everyone must look the same, then that's not openness. That's cultural uniformity. A society that is truly open lets you be visibly Muslim, visibly Christian, visibly anything, without forcing you into the majority image. And now, Östman here also mentions banning hijab in some professions, e.g. the police. But religious dress is already accommodated for Christians. No one questions a police officer wearing a cross necklace, or a Christian teacher wearing modest clothing for religious reasons. The hijab is no more dangerous than a scarf in winter. The difference is that it's Islamic. Now, to his credit, Östman notices the danger. If you ban the hijab for children, then you logically must ban all religious symbols for children, including Christian crosses, yarmulkes, and privately religious school uniforms. This reveals the hypocrisy that Christian Democrats fight for their right to religious schools and Christian expression in public life. Yet they are considering the ban on Muslims, for the exact same rights. It should be said here that the Christian Democrats have historically defended Christian private schools, Bible-based teachings, and the right to express Christian faith in public institutions. They call this religious freedom, and then personally, they should have this. But if religious freedom only applies to their religion, then it's not freedom, it's privilege. Islam actually teaches us that fairness applied to all people.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين لله شهداء بالقسط ولا يجرمنكم شنآن قوم على ألا تعدلوا اعدلوا هو أقرب للتقوى واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون.
Now, we're gonna go into the last part here, because this is the worst part. This last part, harkima. Everything should be banned. Now, here we go. So, Harkima's position is not really said here, but regardless, Harkima's position is yes, everything should be banned. Now, this is, I'm going to be completely honest, an authoritarian reflex. It's not about security, equality, or integration. It's simply, I don't like it, therefore it shouldn't exist. Which is, as long as I'm concerned, classic Finnish racism. Now, if a politician can usually say, or casually say, ban everything about religious practice, they've abandoned the principle of individual freedom. And by that logic, any minority custom, Sikh turbans, Jewish kippas, and Christian clerical robes, could be erased overnight if enough people dislike them. That's not democracy. Now, Vornanen, the very last person here who talks about this, Timo Vornanen tries to wrap his ban in a language of gender equality. He claims Niqab and Burqa don't belong because they're not a part of Finnish-style gender equality. But here's the problem. Equality is about the right to choose. If a woman freely chooses Niqab, banning it removes her choice, which is the opposite of empowerment. Finnish equality cannot be defined solely through Western dress code. Otherwise, it becomes a cultural assimilation, not equality. Muslim women in Finland have repeatedly said they wear the hijab or niqab out of conviction, and they should. They're not coerced into it. Vornanen's stance assumes that Muslim women are incapable of deciding for themselves, which is patronizing and deeply sexist in itself. Now, I want to just leave with these 2 points about the historical irony and equality in general. Because not so long ago, Finnish women themselves were told what they could or could not wear, from church dress codes to workplace uniforms. It would have been unthinkable to tell a Christian woman to remove her headscarf in church. The fact that Finland now applies this controlling logic to Muslim women shows that the mentality hasn't really gone away. It's just been redirected at the minority. If any of these parliamentarians cared about equality, they would oppose wage gaps in Finland's workplace, they would address domestic violence rates, and they would ensure that immigrant women and men have equal access to education and work. They should not fixate on religious clothing. And again, it is very important here to remember that at no point does the Quran directly say that you are forced to wear it. There are commandments which you should follow as a Muslim. And one of them is in fact wearing the hijab. The hijab is mandatory for women within Islam, not the burqa, not the niqab. The niqab and burqa are worn by those women who feel this will please their God, and they should have the right to do so. But I will say this is really silly that Finland is just talking about this, but I wanted to bring it up and show that even so-called liberal countries that believe in freedom, are not above banning women wearing what they want. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe.